As real estate prices continue to rise in the Miami area, a lot of people are looking to leave Miami. Add to that the cost of insurance and increasing HOA fees. So in today's video, I'm going to give you 10 suggestions of places you can move to if you're leaving the Miami area. And I'm also going to warn you about a few places you should definitely not even consider if you're leaving Miami. While it is true that the incomes in Miami are not that great, living is expensive, utilities are somewhat affordable, and many people are finding that when they move to rural counties in Florida, their utilities go up so much that it almost offsets living in Miami. Not only are people leaving Miami finding that utilities and other expenses can actually be more expensive outside of Miami, but they're finding that the people can be pretty rude and nasty as well. See, despite the general theory that Miami is a rude city, some of these central Florida rural counties are even worse. And again, despite the general misconception that Miami is a dangerous city, many people that are leaving Miami are actually finding that there's a lot more violence and crime in the rural communities that they're moving to than back home in the big city. So if you're leaving Miami, don't just assume that you're going to find some country little paradise where everything's going to be perfect and more affordable. Please believe there's going to be some serious drawbacks to moving to a smaller place. You're still from Miami, a generally safe, large city with a lot of food, culture, and things to do. And when you find yourself in the middle of nowhere, eventually the honeymoon of moving to a small town will be over and the reality will set in. Before we talk about the places you should move to, let's talk about some places you should definitely stay the crap out of. A lot of people from Miami have ended up in Sebring, Florida. The economy here is absolute garbage, and while they're building a lot of single-family homes, they're not building any infrastructure or anything other than freaking houses. Consumption here is about 4 times higher than Miami, and the homicide rate is higher than Miami, which means it's not safer than a large city. But the real problem with Sebring is the lack of opportunities, especially if you have kids and families. This is not where you want to end up. The next place that a lot of people are moving to from Miami is Okala. This place is even more crime-ridden, even more drug-ridden. A lot of people leaving Miami have been ending up in Okala because it's affordable and it's possibly one of the worst places you could end up in Florida. The economy here has absolutely no way to make it. If you can avoid Okala, you'll do yourself a huge favor. The number one place you should move to if you're leaving the Miami area is Sarasota. I think Sarasota is like a baby Miami. You still have a nice downtown. You have some of the best beaches in Florida. There's even a lot of free parking along the beaches. It's a congested city, but it's nothing as bad as Miami. There's a lot of shopping, things to do. And if you're buying a house in the Sarasota area, you can expect to pay about half what you would in Miami. Sarasota has a lot of arts and culture and different restaurants, so if you're coming from Miami and Sarasota, you'll find many of the things that you're used to, like Cuban food. Number 2 is Bradenton, Florida. Bradenton is between Sarasota and Tampa, and it has some of the most beautiful beaches in the state of Florida. Real estate in Bradenton starts off at about $300,000, and for about $500,000, you can get a really decent house here. Living in Bradenton, you'll have access to a lot of places to work. You can even commute into Sarasota or Tampa, which means that Bradenton is the perfect place for somebody looking to get ahead. If you enjoy going to the beach and always finding a parking spot, you might like living in Bradenton. The homicide rate in Manatee County is about half what it is in Dade, so you should feel relatively safe. Number 3 is Lakewood Ranch. Lakewood Ranch is split between Sarasota and Manatee counties, and consider it something like a nice suburb to Bradenton and Sarasota. East of 75, you're far inland, so you don't have to worry about hurricanes. There's also a great elevation. There's bike trails, parks, playgrounds. If you like the outdoors, Lakewood Ranch has so much to offer for people who like being outside. You can actually get a townhome here for less than $400,000. You simply will not find that in Miami. And 3.2s are starting off at around $400,000, and they go up from there. We're talking new construction for under $400,000 in a great suburban area, with HOA fees usually being under $200,000 in some of the smaller communities. Number 4 is Northport, Florida, located south of Sarasota. This is a fast growing area. It has good incomes. Many years back there wasn't anything in Northport, but right now the amount of restaurants and things going in means that in the future Northport will be a great place to live. It's a very safe area, clean, new construction. Living in Northport puts you halfway between Sarasota and Fort Myers, so things to do in restaurants as well as employment should not be complicated here. You have a lot of options. Northport is one of the fastest growing communities in the United States, and that's because it's fairly affordable. You can get a new house here, a relatively new home here. Let's say an almost new 4.2 will be less than $460. The same house in Miami would easily run you over $1 million. Number 5 is Venice, Florida. It's also part of the Sarasota metro area. Venice is affordable. It has great beaches. It has a beautiful fishing pier. It's got a cute, beautiful downtown. Think of it like a smaller version of Coral Gables. East of Venice, there's a lot of new home construction going in, and you can find an older home in the Venice area for around $300,000 in a nice neighborhood. You're not going to find that anywhere in Miami. The downsides to living in Venice is that the sands are not white like in Sarasota, and you cannot walk barefoot on the sand during the hot summer days because the sand will literally burn your feet off. It's kind of a yellow sand with a little bit of gray in it. It definitely gets hot, nothing like the beaches in Naples or Sarasota. But then again, you're also not paying Naples or Sarasota prices. Another huge downfall to living in Venice is the fact that the red tide has been persistent here more than anywhere else. Not sure why, but if you're asthmatic, you might want to consider not moving to Venice, or at least being as far inland as possible and not directly along the coast. Number 6 is Parrish. This is a small rural town in Manatee County right outside of Tampa. It offers you the ability to live in a small rural town, but trust me, it is growing like crazy. There's several new communities to choose from, and the prices are very affordable. For about $360,000, you can get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a gated community, new construction. Parrish was a small town with a lot of cattle, but right now it's being redeveloped and it's growing tremendously. One of the downsides of living in Parrish is that the roads really cannot handle the amount of people that are moving into this suburban part of Tampa, but that's the same problem every other Tampa suburb pretty much has. In less than 40 minutes, you can be in St. Petersburg Beach, and in about 45 minutes, you can be on Anna Maria Island. So living in Parrish offers you the opportunity to live in a small rural town right outside of Tampa with easy access to some of the best beaches in the state. Most importantly, it's extraordinarily affordable. There's a physical therapy place that does aquatic therapy there, and people tell me it's one of the best they've seen anywhere. And yes, it's a small rural town, but keep in mind, you're not even that far away from Tampa or Bradenton, so you still have access to all the city comforts you want while living in a small town. Number 7 is Inverness. This city is located north of Tampa. It's a small rural town with a beautiful downtown. There's new parks. They're trying to make this area grow. It's got a lot of new stuff going in, from restaurants to parks. There's things to do. If you like nature and the outdoors and seeing green spaces, you'll love living in the Inverness area. This area is famously known for their cattle dog, one of the best cafes in Florida. So if you like little cafes and great dining opportunities, this small town is packed with things to do for dinner. This area is known for having some of the best bass fishing lakes in the entire state. However, by far the biggest benefit of going with Inverness is how affordable this area is. People have been relocating to Inverness from Miami and Broward for a long time now, so some of the things you're used to, like Cuban food, Cuban sandwiches, just the cuisine in general, is present here to a small degree, so if you ever start missing Miami, you're not too far away from the things you miss. Inverness continues to grow, and as it grows, there's always new things to do. It's definitely a great place to consider if you're leaving Miami and looking for a more rural community. One of the things to watch out for in this area is flooding. For example, the Withlacoochee River is known to flood its banks, sometimes for weeks on end. So just make sure that the property you're buying is affordable, because it's affordable, and not affordable because there's an expectation that someday it could be 10 feet underwater, because this area is known and prone to a lot of flooding. Keep that in mind when you do your home search in the Inverness area. Number 8 takes us to North Carolina, the suburbs of Apex and Cary, right outside of Raleigh. A lot of people leaving Florida are heading to North Carolina, and one of the best places to end up in North Carolina is the Raleigh metro area. In particular, I found that the suburbs of Cary and Apex are a great place to end up. In general, North Carolina isn't the most welcoming place to outsiders. Just about in all my videos that I do in North Carolina, I see things like "go away," "don't come here," "go back to your state." So North Carolina isn't the most welcoming state to outsiders, but you'll find that in the Apex Cary area, it's a diverse area. It's just about everybody moved there from somewhere else, so you should be a little bit better off in that aspect. Now, Apex, Cary, and Raleigh are not as affordable as, let's say, somewhere in Charlotte or a small town in North Carolina, but I'm going to warn you, you get what you pay for. And when you move to one of these small towns where a house is $120,000 in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, maybe there's a reason it's affordable. So just let me give you a warning that if you're moving to North Carolina and you think that you're going to go for like these houses that are $150,000, trust me, there is ample reason why those houses are that affordable. If you want to live in a nice, decent area in North Carolina, you're usually going to be putting about at least $360,000 for your home. If you get into the 150s, that's a whole different level of living. So just understand, if you're moving to North Carolina, don't think you go on Google and you start researching towns and, oh, here's this beautiful house for $150,000. There are places in Florida where you can also get a house for $150,000. And there are places you will not even consider moving to. It's the same thing with like North Carolina or some of these other states in the South. Don't think because they're super affordable that there's just a great deal to be found. Dude, believe me, if you get a house for $150,000, there's probably a reason why it's so affordable, and it's probably not a reason you're going to enjoy. So I'm going to give you a warning that a nice neighborhood in North Carolina costs as much money as a nice neighborhood in Florida. Boy, I hope you're listening on that one. Number 9 is Moultrie, Georgia. So many people have moved to this small Georgia town that they are now 7% Cuban. I'm going to give you a warning though, if you're moving to Moultrie, Georgia. I know a lot of people that have moved to Moultrie. When I ask them, how are things in Moultrie with racism, you don't get an answer. There's no reply, which would suggest to me that possibly living in Moultrie and being a minority or an outsider is quite challenging. It is, after all, in South Georgia, part of the Deep South. So despite the fact that a lot of people have moved here from other places, that doesn't really change the fact that the locals are still people from the Deep South, deeply hated in their sentiment of hate towards outsiders. And the fact that every time I ask my Cuban friends who live in Moultrie what it's like to live there with racism, and you just get a blank stare with absolutely no answer, would probably suggest that they're going through some crazy crap. But at the end of the day, if you really want to live in an affordable town that has 2 Cuban restaurants in South Georgia, there are not too many options. For under $200,000, you can get a mansion literally in the eyes of somebody in South Florida, in Moultrie, Georgia. It's extraordinarily affordable. There are 2 Cuban restaurants, and the Hispanic community here in South Georgia continues to grow. And the whole being a minority in the South, it's not that people don't like you. It's not that people say mean things to you. We're talking about like getting pulled over by the police. We're talking about getting visits from the Klan. We're talking about getting threats at home and in your workplace. The Deep South is a nasty, hateful place, and sometimes people just disappear and nobody knows what the crap happened to them. So if you're not afraid of something like that happening to you, then go for it. So it's not like, oh, they hurt my feelings. Like, no, you disappeared. We recently did a video about rural counties in Florida that are bad for Hispanics and blacks. And in some of these rural counties, you're something like 10, 16 times more likely to disappear, like 8 to 10 times more likely to get murdered, or like 7 to 8 times more likely to die from a car crash. Just exponentially your chances of survival diminish when you move to these small rural communities as a minority. Those videos were completely based off of analytics, statistics, not my personal opinion. So just know that if you move to one of these rural little towns in the middle of nowhere, things can really get wrong. Even in the state of Florida, you don't even have to cross the Florida line. Some of these small towns like Fort McCoy, Interlachen, these little towns in Florida have a horrible reputation. So if you're leaving the state of Florida or leaving South Florida in general, and you move to one of those little hick towns in the middle of nowhere, just know they really don't like you. Moultrie, Georgia also has one of the highest levels of poverty of anywhere in the United States. So just keep that in mind. If you're moving here, you want to bring some Miami money with you. That's what a lot of people that have moved here have done. They've brought $200,000, $300,000 from Miami, bought a house for $80,000, started a business with the rest of the money. They brought money from the outside. A lot of people also bought houses to rent. So you're going to bring money with you if you're going with this option, because there's not a lot of money here to be made. Don't let the analytical poverty of this place scare you. If you're an endeavorous person, you're going to be okay even in a place like this. So if you got a business idea or you're a hardworking person, you're going to survive anywhere. Don't let the fact that it's a poor place scare you. What you should definitely let scare you is the social aspect of how those people in the South are going to view you as an outsider and what they're going to try to do to make you disappear. Number 10 is Gainesville, Florida. A lot of people consider Okala, but they never consider Gainesville. Let me explain to you the benefits of going with Gainesville. Gainesville has a significantly smaller homicide rate. It has a definitely significant less number of overdoses. It's a younger town. It's one of the youngest cities in Florida. So if you have kids, they're going to fit right in. The west side of Gainesville is definitely where you want to end up, pushing towards Newberry, a nice little suburb out there. That area is growing. It's affordable. A lot of people from Miami are moving there, especially those with kids and want to put them through school. It's an affordable area. Alachua County in general has, again, some of the best crime statistics and addiction statistics of anywhere in that region of Florida. It's like Gainesville is the only city in that whole area that doesn't really suck. And those are the top 10 best places to move to if you are leaving the Miami area. There's always Lehigh Acres, Fort Myers, Naples, but prices there are almost on par with what you're paying in Miami. And if it's more affordable, then you're giving up something like infrastructure. Instead of being on city water, you're going to be on nasty well water. Septic tanks that overflow if it rains too much. No roads at all. Crazy commutes. Sometimes your commute in Lehigh will be worse than your commute in Miami, believe it or not. And then on top of all that, there's not even good internet in most of Lehigh Acres. So if you're thinking about Southwest Florida, I would definitely stay out of the Naples and Fort Myers area. It's almost like living in Miami, but with less infrastructure. If you need a realtor in the Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakewood Ranch, or Parrish area, my wife is a realtor here. So if you're buying anywhere in Sarasota, Manatee County, you can use my wife as a realtor. Her contact information is listed on the description below. We're originally from the Naples, Fort Myers area, and we currently live in Lakewood Ranch, which is between Sarasota and Bradenton. We like it up here a lot more because it's more affordable. We're closer to the beaches. There's less traffic congestion. We're right outside of Tampa. Crap, we have Siesta Beach, one of the best beaches in Florida, 35 minutes away on a day with no traffic. That is hard to beat. On any given day, we can be in the Sarasota beaches, the Bradenton beaches, St. Petersburg Beach, or go into Tampa, all that within less than an hour's drive. This area offers a lot of access to great large cities. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions, you can always go in the comment section and let me know what areas you've been researching. We've traveled to about 40 different states in the United States and Canada, so we've seen a lot of what's out there, and I just hope that my information can help you if you're moving, get the right advice.